up because I had a minor point of disagreement, I think, with Darrel Ray. And now that he's not here to defend himself, I will just bash away. I'm just kidding. Darrel's pet issue, I think, was a lot about the meme nature of religion and how it, can be modeled effectively by understanding how computer viruses and biological viruses spread from host to host. And I agreed with and enjoyed a lot of what he said, but there was something he said at the end, which was basically, atheists shouldn't try to go after people, after religious people, with logic and reason. Because if it's a virus, you're not going to argue a cold out of somebody. Once the virus has taken root in somebody's mind, it's going to defend itself. And he gives an example. I'm not actually sure if this was on the last show or if it was something I heard on the Point of Inquiry podcast that he was also on. But what he said was that he talked to a room full of atheists once, and he said, how many of you have had an argument with a religious person? Lots of hands go up. And then he says, how many of you won that argument? And a bunch of hands go down. Most of the hands go down. And he says, you see, there's no point in trying to reason with them. Because almost nobody ever winds up changing their mind due to logical arguments. You got an opinion on that, Jeff?
I do have an opinion on this. If you're going to make an analogy between religion and an organism, then it's not just, you don't only deal with hostile microbes by attacking them directly. You also deal with them by changing the environment in which they find themselves so it's no longer conducive to them.
Very well said.
And that is what I think is the purpose of logical argument. We're not necessarily trying to kill off that particular religion microbe directly by poking at it with the
right, we're not trying to eradicate it from every individual person.
We're trying to make the environment in which it finds itself full of rational discourse, which is anathema to the survival of religion.
Yeah, that is very similar to what I was going to say. In fact, what I would say in response to the questions he was asking of the room, because I am one of the people who would have kept their hand up when saying, have you won that argument? I've not often, but it's happened every once in a while. And we know that there are lots and lots of atheists who are here having converted from religion. And I think the appropriate follow-up question would be, of the people who have successfully been cured of the virus, how many of them got there through a means other than logical arguments? I think most ex-theists I know believe, at least, that they are at the atheist position because they approached it from a perspective of rational inquiry.
Plus, I would have to have asked that guy, not that I saw the show, but in that scene with the auditorium and the hands going up, I would have to have asked, what are the criteria for winning? Does winning mean the guy you're talking to, does a face palm and goes, oh my gosh, you're right, how could I have been so foolish?
That doesn't happen.
That's not winning. Winning is being right.
Yeah. What happens is more like...
Not just believing that you're right, which is what most believers think is winning. As long as they can continue to believe they are right, they won. That is not the case.
Right. What happens is you put ideas in the other person's head which are like an antibody or a vaccine, basically, which might take years and years to grow and might never come to fruition. But my fiancée, Linnea, actually says that she was in contact with atheists when she was younger and still a theist. And she is mad at them at this point for not having gone out of their way to discuss the issue with her, because she thinks that she would have abandoned religion sooner if people had been willing to have those discussions. And like you said, it's changing the environment, because I have no illusion that I'm going to change the minds of most people I talk to. But what is going to happen is, well, when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure I was the only atheist in my entire school. I'm not really sure, but
You think you were,
but
because
nobody
you
else
never...
was willing to cop to it.
Right.
Ben, my son, who's 7 years old,
Uh-huh.
keeps coming home and telling me that he's met another atheist at school. Somebody who was comfortable saying, you know, like the subject just came up. I don't think he's like picking fights or anything, but the subject of God came up, and the other kid said, "Well, I don't believe in God." That's a change from 20, 25 years ago, whatever.
I have another question. If this fella thinks we should not be using reason and logic to argue with believers, what does he think we should be using?
I don't know the answer, and he's not here.
Because, what else is there? There's emotional appeals, which have their place. I think that emotional appeals have their place, particularly when you got one that's in your favor. But they're not clinchers, right? They're just ways to ease the journey. But mostly, religion is designed to take advantage of those emotional appeals, and scientific viewpoints only get to take advantage of emotional appeals when, by random chance, there happens to be something emotionally appealing about a scientific insight.
Right.
It's not built from them. Religion is built from them.
Science is actually handicapped a bit by the compunction to say things that are true.
Yeah. Why would we want to fight in an arena that is the home turf of the religionists? That just doesn't seem wise.